small for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear.
Your parents' death was not your fault.
My parents deserve justice.
I cannot let that pass.
If you make yourself more than just a man, then you become something else entirely.
Which is?
A legend, Mr. Wayne.
Master Wayne, are you coming back for long, sir?
As long as it takes to show the people of Gotham their city doesn't belong to the criminals and the corrupt.
Bruce?
Rachel?
You were gone a long time.
I know.
Things are worse than ever down here. What chance does Gotham have when the good people do nothing?
Nomec survival suit for advanced infantry. Kevlar utility harness, gas-powered magnetic grapple gun.
What's that?
Well, the Tumbler? Oh, you wouldn't be interested in that.
I spent a lot of time being scared for you. I heard you were back. But the man I loved, the man who vanished, never came back.
He's here. Who? The Batman.
Gotham must be destroyed.
Gotham isn't beyond saving.
Just hold on!
Guy dresses up like a bat. Clearly has issues.
Where do we begin?
A year ago, these cops and lawyers wouldn't dare cross any of you. I mean, what happened?
So what are you proposing?
It's simple. Kill the Batman. Here's my card.
Bruce, this is Harvey Dent.
Rachel's told me everything about you.
I certainly hope not. You once told me that we'd be together. Did you mean it?
Bruce, don't make me your only hope for a normal life.
You're Alfred, right?
That's right, sir.
Any psychotic ex-boyfriends I should be aware of?
Oh, you have no idea.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're tonight's entertainment. Well, hello, beautiful. You look nervous.
I've seen now what would have to become to stop men like him.
The night is darkest just before the dawn. And I promise you, the dawn is coming.
And here we go. Come on. This city deserves a better class of criminal.
I'm gonna give it to him. No! You'll see. I'll show you.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Will you be wanting the bat pod, sir?
Middle of the day, Alfred? Not very subtle.
The Lamborghini, then.
Much more subtle.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
You are as precious to me as you were to your own mother and father. I swore to them that I would protect you, and I haven't.
The twilight's fast gleam.
The mayor's gonna dump him in the spring.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But he's a hero, a war hero. This is peacetime.
You think this can last? There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne. You and your friends better bet. batten down the hatches. Because when it hits, you're all gonna wonder how you ever thought you could live so large and leave so little for the rest of us.
What does that mean?
Rise.
When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die.
Batman is one of our darkest and most iconic heroes. This year, after much anticipation, he returns to the screen. And here's the trailer to Batman Begins.
Tell us, Mr. Wayne. What do you fear?
How do you know my name?
The world is too small for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear.
Your parents' death was not your fault.
My parents deserve justice. I cannot let that pass.
If you make yourself more than just a man, then you become something else entirely.
Which is?
A legend, Mr. Wayne.
Master Wayne, are you coming back for long, sir?
As long as it takes to show the people of Gotham their city doesn't belong to the criminals and the corrupt.
Bruce?
Rachel?
You were gone a long time.
I know.
Things are worse than ever down here. What chance does Gotham have when the good people do nothing?
Nomex survival suit for advanced infantry. Kevlar utility harness, gas-powered magnetic grapple gun.
What's that?
Well, the Tumbler? Oh, you wouldn't be interested in that.
I spent a lot of time being scared for you. I heard you were back. But the man I loved, the man who vanished, never came back.
He's here.
Who?
The Batman. Gotham must be destroyed.
Gotham isn't beyond saving.
Just hold on. Rachel!
Guy who dresses up like a bat clearly has issues.
Joining me now is filmmaker Christopher Nolan and the actor playing Batman, Christian Bale. I'm pleased to have them here to talk about this movie. What did you say? There's an MTV what?
There's a spoof on part of the movie as part of the MTV Movie Awards, but I haven't seen it yet. I heard it was very funny.
Yeah. Why did it take this long to have another Batman? I mean, this is a valuable franchise.
It is, but I think there was a feeling from the studio, I guess, that the direction the previous franchise the previous version of the franchise had gone was extremely stylized and had kind of run its course. Yeah. I think you've got to let a bit of time pass before you do something that refreshes it and kind of reinvents it.
A lot of people have done this. It's something you wanted to do?
Well, play Batman?
Yeah.
It was never something that I was interested in through seeing the TV series or seeing the movies. It was something I became interested in through reading the graphic novels, not until about the year 2000. I was lent a graphic novel called Arkham Asylum, and that was the first time that I ever saw a Batman that I personally found to be a truly fascinating character.
What was fascinating?
What I realized is that the portrayals that I'd seen of Batman previously were spoofs of what Batman was intended to be. And that Bob Kane, when he first created Batman back in 1939, he wanted him to be a dark and threatening character. And then there was a kind of a revival with Frank Miller doing Batman Year One. And then there are other great graphic novels like Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb's Dark Victory and Long Halloween. And it's a very, very different, darker look at the character. And it was the first time that I thought this is something I really would love to get a chance to portray.
You don't mind playing dark characters?
No, and I
kind of like it, don't you?
I like to say that I'm fascinated with obsessive characters more so than dark characters, you know. And I think certainly Bruce Wayne is obsessive.
Yeah, how is he dark?
He's dark in that he's driven by very negative emotions. You know, his cause comes from a promise he makes to his parents after their murder. To rid the city of the evil that took their lives, and a great sense of guilt that he was in some way responsible for their deaths, because it was his inability to control his own fears, which were bats, and which he was seeing in this opera that they went to see, and he had to leave because he was too scared, and consequently his parents were murdered in the alleyway by the site. So there's a great sense of if he had been able to control his fear, that never would have happened.
So he's obsessed and
He's obsessed. He has a great deal of burden on him, a great burden of guilt, and a great thirst for revenge as well. You know, I see him as being a very dark and as the Batman, and I kind of like calling him a creature. That he's virtually demonic, you know, in his rage, but with the great philanthropy of his father, you know, talking in his ear all the time, reining him in and stopping him from going too far and becoming a force of great destruction, which he's capable of.
Do you go back and look at all the other Batmans, or did you studiously avoid them?
I respectfully ignored them. You know, this, as the title suggests, Batman Begins. It's not Batman number 5. It's the Genesis story. We were reinventing the whole lore, and so I didn't wish to steal anything or to repeat any of the previous performances that I'd seen.
What we have here is 2 Brits restoring the franchise, do we not?
Well, in a way, a lot of Brits actually, because we shot the film in England, so the whole crew was, most of the crew was British for those sections of the film. But I'm actually half American, half English.
Plus Liam.
Plus Liam. Well, Liam, I know he wouldn't want to be called a Brit.
No, I know he wouldn't, but he's up the island.
Absolutely. No, I wouldn't call him that.
Be called a Brit.
The last thing.
Not within punching distance, yeah. But,
exactly.
Michael Caine, absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's Caine.
Tom Wilkinson. There's a great...
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. God.
Great pool of English talent, certainly, or international talent.
Now, how did that happen?
It's really by accident. I mean, honestly, maybe as somebody who's English, I'm more open to more international casting, but truthfully, we just went after the best people for the roles, and it sort of just wound up that way.
Now, what's the story here?
Well, we're taking on the story that hasn't been told before, and that's the origin story. It's the idea of how and why Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. It's never been addressed before on screen, and even in the comics, there isn't really one definitive account of it. It's always been treated in kind of flashback and montage and reference to backstory. So we were able to really try and tell a story that's never been told before.
All right, take a look at this. This is from Henri Ducart, who Liam Neeson plays, visits Bruce Wayne to give him some advice on fighting criminals. Here it is.
Are you so desperate to fight criminals that you lock yourself in to take them on one at a time?
Actually, there were 7 of them.
I counted 6, Mr. Wayne.
How do you know my name?
The world is too small for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear, no matter how deep he chooses to sink.
Who are you?
My name is merely Ducard, but I speak for Raz Al Ghul, a man greatly feared by the criminal underworld.
The vigilantes.
No. The vigilante is just a man lost in the scramble for his own gratification. He can be destroyed or locked up. But if you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, and if they can't stop you, then you become something else entirely.
Which is?
A legend, Mr. Wayne.
What did you feel was your obligation to the franchise, other than make a good movie?
I didn't think so much of an obligation to the franchise as to the character. He's a beloved, enduring American icon. And my primary obligation was to look at the history of that character, 66 years of that history, and draw from that, distill from that the essence of what makes that legend. That really was the primary obligation. And what I wanted to do was do something that I'd never seen before, which is to take on this superhero story. And he's a superhero who has no superpowers. He's the most human of all superheroes. He is just a man with incredible self-discipline and dedication. And then that leads me to think that you can tell the story in a realistic fashion. You can ground it with the textures and so forth of the real world, and in that way, hopefully, really take the audience on this journey with this character as he becomes Batman.
And for you? I mean, how did you...
I felt that through my discovery of the graphic novels that, you know, I'm being amazed that that he had never been portrayed in that way before, because to me that was just by far the most interesting portrayal and
the
depiction
darkness
I've
that
seen.
you hadn't seen before.
Just much more psychologically interesting and by far the most, you know, kind of badass, but also just much more intriguing superhero than anybody, any of the others. And so, you know, my hope was that we would be able to create the kind of defining portrayal of Batman in much the same way that I see like Christopher Reeves did it with Superman, and I think that that's a tough act to follow, you know? Whereas I felt like I had a lot more room to maneuver because the character had never been approached from such a human and a deep point of view before.
Do you think in terms of career when you choose these things at all?
I think that my initial interest was that I really only wanted to play Batman if it was going to be something very different from what I'd seen before.
Right.
That I had no interest in playing it otherwise. When Chris, became the director, it became very clear, because, you know, I would say that respectfully towards Chris and myself, that we weren't exactly the predictable choices to make a movie of this magnitude. Yeah. And I think that's a real saving grace to it, because Chris brought a real sense from his more independent background of maintaining, a great intimacy and not losing the storytelling and not making it, impersonal at all.
Michael Caine plays
Alfred, who is familiar to moviegoers as the family butler, but perhaps not quite so familiar to moviegoers as really the surrogate father. He takes over being Bruce's father effectively after his parents are killed.
And here's a conversation between the two of them when Batman talks about coming back to save the city, or to return to fight corruption.
Are you coming back to Gotham for long, sir?
As long as it takes. I'm going to show the people of Gotham their city doesn't belong to the criminals and the corrupt.
In the Depression, your father nearly bankrupted Wayne Enterprises combating poverty. He believed that his example would inspire the wealthy of Gotham to save their city.
Did it?
In a way, their murder shocked the wealthy and the powerful into action.
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting.
What symbol?
Something elemental, something terrifying.
I assume that as you're taking on the underworld, this symbol is a persona to protect those you care about from reprisals.
You're thinking about Rachel?
Actually, sir, I was thinking of myself.
Batman's primary weapon is fear?
Yes.
Fear?
Yes. Using his own fear against his opponents.
His fear?
His fear originally of bats. His fear of, I feel very much as well of disappointing himself and of not being able to control his fear, you know? And very much the theme is about taking grief and taking very negative emotions of anger, etc., and being able to find a way to use them constructively.
How much weight did you lose for The Machinist?
63 pounds.
And how much did you gain back for this?
I went up 100 pounds, and then I arrived in England.